Welcome to World Story 22, a channel that always provides information about the history of countries in the world. On this auspicious occasion, Chanel World Story 22 will discuss the system of sexual slavery during the Japanese colonial era in Indonesia. So when the Japanese colonizers colonized Indonesia, many native Indonesian women were made into sex slaves by the Japanese soldiers. They were taken by force by the Japanese occupiers to serve the sexual needs of the Japanese soldiers. Then how about sex slavery, which was carried out by Japanese soldiers during the colonial era? Before continuing to the discussion, I will remind you first, for those of you who haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel, so that you don't miss the history that happened in countries around the world. Exploitation of women as sexual slaves during the Japanese occupation was a series of planned and organized systems during the Greater East Asia War. Japan realized the basic need for soldiers. What was possible at that time was using indigenous women as comfort women. This was stated by Catherine McGregor in a public lecture held by the Department of History FCSUGM, on Tuesday, 25 quarters, in the Multimedia Room, Margano Building, Lieutenant 2, Fib UGM. On that occasion, Catherine gave a public lecture with the topic, Piecing Together the Threads of the So-Called Comfort Women System during the Japanese occupation of Indonesia. This woman, who is a LSO, a professor at Melbourne University in Australia, described in detail the system of sexual slavery during the Japanese occupation. So what happened to the sexual slavery of women during the Japanese period was something planned, said Catherine. Catherine further explained that Japan imposed a selection on these women. Each woman is then classified based on beauty. They were then forced to serve the soldiers. Women for officers and soldiers are different, he explained. The majority of women who are used as sexual slaves or called karyukis are taken by force from their families in the villages. During the Japanese occupation, the first step was to stratify society. Europeans were then sent to internment camps, including European women. Meanwhile, the fate of the indigenous people is not much better. Their women are used as sexual slaves, karyukis, and some also experienced violence in the form of rape, because it was done by force. In looking at the systems that worked during the Japanese occupation, Catherine traces the documents and records of Japanese soldiers left over from the Greater East Asia War. Besides that, it also uses the remaining memory of the woman who survived. I asked about Indonesia's memories during the Japanese occupation, and especially the testimonies of female victims, most of whom are still alive 40 years after the war, revealing the context of the occupation and how and why women were tricked and then forced to work in the sexual slavery system, said Catherine. On the other hand, Catherine also used various media, including film, to understand the realities of that era. One of them is a documentary film that was worked on by Kana Tamoko in 2011, entitled Mardiem. Even so, there is a difference between women as sex workers, karyukis, including comfort women, and comfort women, geisha. The word geisha refers to women who have skills in the arts, dance or singing. They are art workers, and have a legal license, and that is their main job. Although in some cases there are also geisha who become sex workers, but once again it is not their main job, explained Catherine. Say good.